Hello, people, and welcome to another edition of A Dose of Drew Knife Reviews, Friday Night Knife Edition. Tonight, this is a rapid fire review, but it's some oldies but goodies that I'm going to be doing quick reviews and doing a little bit about what could be improved, why I love to see that some of them are still around, and why I hope second editions and all sorts of stuff might come around or something like that. Starting with this will be the first of many editions. There's lots of great knives that are still out there. One of these I know will never have another edition, and it is one that I'm not really excited about, but it's definitely one that can, and you may even see it in there. But just to start going out, first of all, Kershaw Blur. We'll start out with Kershaw. As you can see, it's basically Kershaw's Wee's one cold steel in it. That is the Kershaw Blur. This is the M4. This is a fantastic deal. This is a special edition, but you can get the S30V version of this blade for just over $100. Yeah, it's assisted, and yeah, you have to de-assist it if you want it to have drop shot action, and the detent isn't all that great if you de-assist it. It's really not that fantastic. I leave it assisted because you can still operate it one hand, as you can see. One thing I hate the grip tape on this stupid thing. Number one, it's 4 ounces. It's a pretty solid chunks of aluminum here. It has lots of back spacers. This is a very, very well built knife. Big, thick chunks of aluminum. Again, lots of well spaced back spacers. This is my own aftermarket clip on here. The regular one is basically the same as essentially the same as the Leak. So you would see something like that on there. But it's a really good deal for the steel and for everything you get. It's an extraordinarily well done. I would love to see another version of this come out if they ever were able to work with Kenan again or do something different where they have a choil right here. So one thing like this, knife if I could it would right up to where like just in front of the thumb stud there, right? Like just in front of the thumb stud. If that was not sharpened in a choil. So I had just a little bit to drop my finger and put this into a pinch grip. Instead of that recurve, if that was a choil, that would be probably the biggest thing that I would love to see. And a little bit of jimping on top wouldn't hurt, but that swedge is nice. It's a really good blade shape. It's fantastic. It's so much different in so many ways and so many Kershaw knives. Giving me a little choil right there, and you'll see a theme on here. Changing all of the speed safe over to bearings would be really just get rid of the speed safe. Like it's at this point, they're not that cool. Anyway, all right, so Kershaw Blur, still a great deal. S30V for like $110, I believe, last time I looked, at the time approximately of this video, November of 2022, beginning of November. Who knows what's going to happen as we get closer to the holidays, but as we start to approach past Halloween, coming up on Thanksgiving, and the shopping season really gets into gear, you can find S30V versions of the Kershaw Blur for around $110. And one thing, S30V used to be a great steel, but everyone's complaint was you can't sharpen it because you need diamonds and all that sort of stuff. And at this point, if you're worried about sharpening S30V or any other steel, here's my one thing, and just to put it in perspective, the Worksharp, I believe Precision Pro, I think is the name of it, if I remember correctly off the top of my head, is approximately the same price as a Kershaw Blur, the N14 C28N. So, excuse the alarm there. So, if you have problems with S30V or other steels, take a little bit of time out of your knife budget. Get a Worksharp Precision Pro in the base model version. I believe it's like $79.95 or $69.90. I believe it used to be $69.95 and now it's $79.95. I could be wrong about that, but anyway, it's right around the same price. it's worth the investment, and you'll have diamond stones that can sharpen any freaking steel, including ceramic. So S30V used to be a pain because it was hard to sharpen without diamonds. Now it's easy to get diamonds and a ridiculously sharp edge, which, by the way, this M4 version has a work sharp edge on it. Not bad. I gotta admit, not bad at all. And it definitely shaves. And the M4 is a great steel as well. S30V would be the other choice I would have. Again, $110 for S30V in a fairly robust and solid package. One nice thing about Speed Safe is it is more dirt and everything like that, as grime or anything like that would build up. Speed Safe is going to work. You have the spring assist. It does always work. There's some downsides to it in that thing on the internals when it comes to things like essentially like dirt pockets and such. But Speed Safe, all that internal switched for just regular pivot, either good solid washers, and smooth action. But if you want to keep the quick action, flipping everything over to KVT. Speaking of, moving on to the next one. That is the Kershaw Bare Knuckle. This, especially these versions, even the 14C28 is a great steel. The M390 versions. Used to be you could get these for $100. I believe they're up around 120 now. Again, this is it's such a nice long slicey blade. You get a ridiculous amount of blade for the money. M390, you can find other M390s, S30V, it's right around the $100 mark now, but for a long time, this sucker was the M390 or CPM, let me get this right, CPM 20CV, again, made in the USA. Not much to really complain about on this one, except for the very fact that they keep going up. The in between, there should be, if there's one thing I can say about Kershaw on these ones with the bearings like the Bare Knuckle, when you have the ability to make a lot of these, man, do special editions. Make it easier to do special editions in steels. Or find some way to, I don't want to say, necessarily compared to like Spyderco, but really give people a reason to have more steels in a way that's accessible. I don't want to have to go find Joe's Snap-on Garage version because it's the only one that ever had M4. Give us special editions on the national level. More of them. I know that I'm a member, but give more stuff like this. And the more of the old models that you can get to come off Speed Safe or whatever and go into the KVT bearings, like this butte right here, the better. The KVT bearings on even some of the cheapest models and some of my favorites, like the Tumbler, which is going to be an honorable mention here, are absolutely freaking amazing. So yeah, KVT on everything. More steels on stuff like the Bare Knuckle. You've produced a whole shebang load of these bad boys. Like there's links and other sort of stuff. They're heavy, but the Bare Knuckle with its lightweight construction, its narrowness, it's definitely got the long. Again, Kershaw, why can you not give us choils, man? Like, what's wrong with the freaking choil? That I can, especially on I can hold it like this. But on a long knife like this, in order to get, here, there's a very, very natural motion to right here. With it. Yeah, I can kind of get the tip over here to do it. But really, a choil so I can grab the knife. Oh my God, this would be so much better with it. So there's the nitpick on this one. The Bare Knuckle, choil. And you'll see a recurring theme on the Kershaws. Give me a freaking choil, Kershaw. Come on. Like, I love your stuff. I have a bunch of knives. Please, for the love of everything that you can put a finger on, quit making me build up scar tissue just to be able to hold my knives in a pinch grip. Just give me enough of a choil to you. The leek has it. Why can't anything else? Okay, rant over. Bare knuckle, fantastic, especially if you got some of the early ones where you had a 99.95 bare knuckle and CPM 20 CV, which I was fortunate enough to do. I believe they've gone up in price to around 130 now, but at one point in time you could get 20 CV for under $100 on a Kershaw bare knuckle. That much of it, like 3.48 inches, I believe is what it is. I might be wrong. If I'm wrong off by a couple of hundredths, I'm sorry. But yeah, very, very good knife. Very, very ergonomic. The nitpicks and the things wrong with it are simply just I like the knife that much that I don't want to have to compromise anything else on it. The ability to score, ergonomics, weight, price on this, absolutely fantastic. Not much there. One that is discontinued now, but they did a lot of stuff on here, is the Knockout. Again, this one really, I love a choil, but this one is one of the few that does not need it, except that it would benefit from it, but it's such a short blade, short stubby blade. Yeah, no, that definitely a good one. I wish they would bring this back without speed safe. And as I get into the last of the Kershaws, I'm going to bring back the tumbler. I don't know who if it's Sinkovich or Kershaw that owns this implementation of the liner lock. There's some cool stuff in the tumbler lock that they should apply to all of their knockout versions. And this stuff. It is absolutely fantastic. You bring this back without speed safe, with KVT, with the knockout, and with a version that has something like this tumbler bit right here, and we got something to talk about. This would be, especially with all the different. I have the 14C28N. 14C28N is a fantastic steel, especially on a nice long flat grind with a blade that's so thin behind the edge like this one. It's a good tough steel for that. Not a lot else to complain about on the Knockout. They did lots of different blade steels, lots of special editions you could get your hands on. From USA made blade ones with Sasquatch. There's just lots of knockouts out there that are really fantastic, and it's slim. It's got a good weight. That big fat blade is just absolutely beautiful when it comes to EDC boxes, envelopes, anything you want. This does a really good job, and it's not too long of a blade, but man, that big fat height with the almost full flat grind and the swedge makes it a real slicing machine through relatively small thickness material like cardboard. And the belly gives you long cuts to go with it, so you can get a good 12 to 14 inch stroke out of this blade and get some really nice cuts. Fantastic on it. Which brings me to one of my absolute favorites, the tumbler. Choil. Yes, this is G10 with the silly carbon fiber onlays or top layers. But they really maximize this by putting that slats in there. Oh my god! So you get the chatoyance plus the slats as they move around, where you can't. So you can't unless you get the real good shine where you can see them. In the light in person, it's even more so. It makes it hard to see both the carbon fiber pattern and the slats because the chatoyance and the slats mess each other up when it comes to it. It's almost like camouflage. And then they've ground almost everything else away to make this almost a contoured handle. Like if you realize that only where the carbon fiber is the flat part, everything else is contoured. This is a heavily contoured knife. The slightly chamfered, though not much, still a little bit ridged, but or slightly chamfered, but not very much. For a knife at this price range, it's acceptable, though, grumbling. But with the long thing there, does not prioritize lanyard over the tail-mounted pocket clip. Other complaint, that block in there, that second piece in, is a piece of G10. It is essentially the washer for this screw right here. If that was like aluminum or piece of titanium or even a thin enough piece of steel that you could just something besides G10, this essentially was holding that in, and it's also a part of the backspacer. I know G10 is really tough, and this, especially at this price point, it may not be, but that would be about the other thing. The pocket clip is one of my favorites. This is one of my favorite knives, and the single biggest pet peeve on this knife is no freaking choil. This knife is so versatile. I could use some jamping up here, but it's more of a whine than a complaint, right? Because it can do this so well. But again, even more so on this knife because of the dip right here where just the maneuverability of it is great. To be able to put my finger right there and pinch grip this knife and utilize it so well where I have this level of control in the pinch grip, that would be it. Then, of course, any high-end version of this that would have that in there would be fantastic. You give me a tumbler to it, you could even call it the gymnast. Mess some people's worlds up. They'll get all sorts of bent out of shape. But yeah, and I mentioned it before, I'll do a video, or if you haven't seen any videos where they take it apart, I've never seen anyone where they mention it, but there's some really, really, really cool stuff going on with the way that this lock face, you come back here, you can see it. If you can see if you can see the lock face there, there's it comes in hooks onto that stop pin. But that stop pin is mimicked in the lock bar face. With that around, see if I can get it out there. See how it's dished in there to go like same as the front, how it dishes? The lock bar face does it, but it also engages it that way. That's some really, it engages in there with a round as well as the flat. And if you understand what I'm saying when I say that, you'll understand that's really, really cool, and every single Kershaw should have that. If Kershaw doesn't own that, Sinkovich better hold on to that, because that is a really freaking cool idea. If Kershaw owns it, that should start being like part of the design of every freaking knife. That is the best liner lock face design I have. Outside of the compression lock where you flip around, that is one of the best I've seen. And there's other ways that there's so much I would love to do with this if Kershaw had it, or if I was the designer. The way that they have this built, if this is their design, or if it's patented or anything like that, if it's not patented but they have it, if there's no interest, that is such a beautiful design. Somebody should take advantage of it. I don't know if I have the things, but there's a beauty to it that I can extraordinarily appreciate. And then there's the D2. I actually have a couple of versions. I will probably take one version here. As you can see, I have a work sharp edge on this as well, and probably end up grinding a choil into it just to see how that works. But yeah, Tumbler, one of my favorite knives, and it is because I enjoy it so much that I have so much I would love to change about it, just to make it that little bit more of a knife. All right, so complaining about this. Now, oldies but goodies. Again, only complaint, the ZT060920CV RJ Martin design. Absolutely, again. Right, let me see if I have a sticker here to show my support of my folks right here. It's Lynch Northwest. You'll see I have MXG and Lynch Northwest clips. This is a Lynch Northwest clip, I do believe. That for this, where they bronze the titanium so that it matches and is deep carry. I absolutely love the deep carry on this. And it's one of the few clips I have that will match dark khakis as well, just so you know. The see-through pivot, I do not have the STP tool. It's one of those ridiculous things that they'll have to get a special tool to work on this knife. I really hate that. I will eventually probably end up getting it because this knife is great. I may end up just seeing if I can find a new home for the knife. I'm starting to get to the point where I might be ready to part with some of my collection. We will see. The only other thing is this. I am a fan of choils. You'll hear this in one of the single complaints. If a knife doesn't have a choil but is obviously good on a pinch grip, it's probably going to be one of my main complaints is no place to put my finger. This one is less so because you can actually roll a pinch grip from the thumb over hammer style or saber style grip. You can roll over pretty well as this tucks into the palm of the hand there and do a pinch grip fairly decent. And it's just as easy to then roll your fingers up and even has the dish here. And you can tell it's totally what it's for, to drop your finger on there to do scoring cuts and that sort of thing. Basically your finger is pointing right where you need to score. Beautiful little bit. Would be nice if there was a little bit more of a choil. It would ruin some of the aesthetics, so it is not quite the complaint I would like it to be, because the aesthetics of this knife, while still being able to be usable in this form, and as well as if you're going for more specific or more control over the tip, the swedge, the sliceability, really good. You can still find this knife. It's not the cheapest thing in the world, but you can find it all titanium, bronze titanium, frame lock, see-through pivot with KVT bearings, 20 CV. Great knife. Not a new one. It's been around a while, but it is an oldie but a goodie, and it is such a classic tight. It does have a little bit of a pocket pecker on there, but it folds up into its own silhouette so nicely, so tight, with just the deployment mechanism sticking out so you know where you need to put your finger. Really, really great knife to go. All right, ZT out of the way. Quick one on the cold steel before I roll into the bit. The Ultimate Hunter. This is a giant chunk of S35 VN, and it is one of the better knives out there when it comes to ergonomics. It's a lockback, so it's not, there's ups and downs to it. Very, very strong. It is one-hand operable, even though they don't ever say it, but your hand just has to stay in the path. But if you angle it right, you don't have to. And with a little flick of the wrist, oops, hard to do it on camera, you can thumb stud that sucker out in one shot too. Drop tail for leverage. You can, if you want to, chew up a piece of cord real quick, you can use the lanyard tool that has no chamfering and some sharp edges on that G10. Near deep, for the size of this knife, this is so close to deep carry. It is nice. I actually love that it is a short clip on here. There's a lot of ergonomic reasons for that, why that works really well, but also because even for this large knife, it's relatively slim, very, very contoured. One of the things I like about it, like 80s, and they're very, very blocky. A lot of other knives, this is contoured and very comfortable. And that little clip doesn't print a lot. It doesn't go over the top. It can be covered by a shirt hem, all that sort of stuff. It does, even though it's a big knife, it can be carried relatively discreetly, partly because of this short clip. There is another clip that comes with it that goes for the left. It is not a reversible clip, but there is another clip for left-handed operation, making the, what's it called? Ambidextrous operation of the backlock more useful, as it has a left-hand only clip that comes with it. So if you are a lefty, you just pop the right-hand clip off, put the left-hand clip on. It has screws, attachment, and everything, as well as the clip, and you're good to go when you open the package. When you get your Ultimate Hunter, it has it. These, I believe, are, again, right around $110. Full contour G10. Lock back operation, ambidextrous operation. The thickness of that chunk of S35VN is not to be underestimated. Triad lock, a compression of the stop pin, as well as some geometry on the, as far as the backlog goes, really makes this very, very, very strong when it comes to spreading out the load at the pivot, which it does a great job of. G10 is incredibly tough. The steel is tough. Very, very, very strong design, material, execution. Cold Steel, while they're a little theatrical as far as their stuff, there's a lot of substance to their theatrics, and that this is a very strong design. There is a lot of toughness and usability to this. Big chunk of S35VN. It's not the thinnest thing behind the edge, but it does come with an extraordinary edge. Cold Steel, I have used the factory edge, and I have resharpened this on a work sharp. I can tell you from personal experience from my hand sharpening, my seat of the pants or feel in the hands, Cold Steel got their heat treat spot on with this. This is very, very easy to take an edge. It's difficult to sharpen on regular stones, though it can. S35VN can be sharpened on aluminum oxide. It can be sharpened on Chaucer stones, as well as ceramics. And it has it's a little bit difficult results, but as far as like fine tuning, it does make a fine edge, so you can get a very good edge. And the diamonds on the work sharp make short work of it, and it comes to a fine edge. And it's one of the most even. There's some that you know, tie it, but especially for a big knife, the most even from one side to the other factory edges I've seen. They really got the heat treat, the edge, and the grinding right on this particular example and model. So can really, really take this. It's been around. It's an Andrew Demko design, Ultimate Hunter. Yeah, it's definitely, I mean, it's going out to the hunting aspect. As far as a large knife, almost deep carry, really good value, contoured, comfortable. The choil is a little bit small, but it's still there, so you can really get your finger up even on such a big knife. It does actually do really well as a letter opener in the reverse position. And yeah, you can choke up, you can get good. You can get good control. You can go up. You can pick a sliver. You can skin, cut, destroy boxes. It's relatively large. There's a room enough for any hands. You can even, though you're not supposed to and you shouldn't with a folding knife, there's obviously a drop handle, and there is some faculty sort of built into the design for light chopping duties, like say a watermelon or something like that, and you need to start something, or, you know, any sort of cantaloupe, any sort of, you know, semi-hard object you might want to start chunking, this little beauty will do the job. Easy to recommend this if you can still find them at the prices that they go for. It's huge chunk of S35VN for just a little bit over $100, made in the Taiwan factory with great precision and very, very great action. Easy to recommend. The Cold Steel Ultimate Hunter. I know there's a lot of the shark locks and the scorpion locks and the AD10s and everything that looks super tactile, but if you want a really good drop point knife that's just a good freaking pocket knife for really, really good money, Cold Steel Ultimate Hunter. Good deal, sleeper deal. Usually doesn't get nearly the press and acclaim I think it deserves, but that just means it's going to stay cheap for those of us that know how cool this knife really is. All right, on to the next ones. You're going to see a lot of basically the same company here, so we're going to go through them real quick. One that I've seen come back into stock a lot of places is the wee kite fin. This one's usually right around 140 to 150. It is a little bit more expensive than some of the other knives we were just looking at, but you get titanium on one side, multiple different options on the other side, from titanium with cool millings that are like multiple circles to different types of carbon fiber, like the shredded carbon fiber, which, just to make sure I get this clear here, that is marbled carbon fiber. I don't know, that one's marble too. I do have. This is shredded carbon fiber. All right, if you want to see the difference, I'll give you a quick difference right here. Marble shredded carbon fiber. This is like OSB. It's big chips, and when you grind it down, it makes for a really cool pattern, but it's not marbled, it's shredded. This is little tiny pieces of carbon fibers that have been stirred, and they have been mixed, and then there are all sorts of swirly patterns, and they make a marbled texture. And the light, the sunlight is really where it gets its justice. But those little tiny patterns are different. So shredded and marbled carbon fiber, there you go, right there. All right, enough about that, because it's, I get pet peevy about these things. So whatever, that right there, shredded and marbled. This is marbled carbon fiber. It has beautiful chatoyance. It is almost completely void free, and is one of the best I've seen. They don't seem to do well. Just the two little gold pivots, the little, or gold colored anodized, whatever. Same with the pivot. S35VN hollow grind drop point, almost a spear point. Big front choil, so you can get a good pinch grip or a lot of control. Titanium frame lock. This one's very reserved on the marbled, where they just do the bronzing on all the hardware, and on the inside of the holes there on the thing. Very, very classy, very nice. I love the subdued bit on this one. For a long time, this marbled one was the hard one to get. One of the things you might notice about this blade shape, it is really cool. There's also some resemblance in utility to the blur shape. It has that long swedge. Beautiful hollow grind to an incredibly thin edge that is ridiculously slicey. And I mean, that is like, it's something like 11 thousandths behind the edge. This thing is so thin behind the edge, and it slices. It is such a thin blade stock, as well as a thin blade with this long distal taper all around. It actually has a hard time having full drop shot action when you do. It's smooth, but you have to click it down, and you have to make sure that you give it a good flick, because it's easy enough to fail if you don't give it the full treatment, which means it's a light switch all the way. It is not push button. You gotta light switch this thing open. Is that a deal breaker? Not even the slightest. There's lots of knives that are engineered to be light switch, and this is one of them. The beak, there's no beak on the back. It's rounded down. It's contoured on the front face of it, at least on the carbon fiber ones, and flat on the lock face to accommodate the frame lock. Absolute beautiful freaking knife right here. Goes right in. Again, only the deployment mechanism sticks out. The rest of it goes right into its own silhouette very, very nicely. Deep carry pocket. Little bit of a chamfered thing for a lanyard. Why on this knife you would want a lanyard, or what you're going to use. This is one of those things, like before we and Civivi really started putting the hidden lanyard pins, which is the best thing, the best solution, best thing. If they redid this knife and put this back so you had a full deep carry clip and like a hidden lanyard pin, that would be the design change I would want on this knife. the rest of this, I would love a full contoured one, and I'll get to the next beauty, which is in a second. But other than full contouring, taking that lanyard hole out, replacing it with a hidden lanyard pin, and putting this pocket clip all the way back to there as well. That would be absolutely the change I would make on it. Otherwise, I love this knife. This is one of my first knives. It has really great action as long as you know to light switch it. Great ergonomics, really thin, slim, light, great steel S35VN, so thin. Just all around a great. Yes, let's see if I can get that in the S35VN right there. Can you see it? Anyway, all right, so on to the next one. Kite fin, great. One of my personal favorite knives, no longer in production. The Deacon. This thing is so heavily contoured on both sides of the titanium. The bolster lock solves so many of the problems that come with the frame lock and liner lock both. Like, this is the best of both worlds, if you ask me. It really, really is. Matching hardware, the beautiful bluish purple anodization. Matching backspacer in G10. Or, I'm sorry, titanium. Yeah, titanium. Oh my God, that is titanium. Right? Bit of a pointy deployment, I think, but this has one of the best action, most sublime action. It is barely a light switch. Again, a little bit of a light switch. You can't just push down because it is, basically a triangle. But you get just your fingers a little bit over that. Let's see if I can make this sound. Because you can get this to where it just barely clicks at a full vertical. That one's pretty heavy. Yeah, it's one of the most sublime actions of any. And it's not just, I don't even know if it's the model, if it's just this exact one, but it's easy enough to fail when you're trying. Oh yeah, it is just barely a snap in. It is sublime, right? It is so well tuned to where you just have if you just don't get your finger in the way and make sure that you give it a light switch action, you go all the way, it's going to shoot every time, even down to the lightest little wave, as long as you don't hit the table. Right? It's great action, highly contoured, got this beautiful classic drop point shape, very, very practical, very simple in all the right ways. Old classic with the 3 on there goes right into this beautiful jumping, incredibly crowned spine. Long. This is a full flat grind. Look at that long distal taper on that blade. That is some nice grind work in some of the most beautiful way on a really, 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 really good down to the thing. This one is I believe it was 17 thousandths behind the edge, and it is ground to a 13.5 degree per side secondary bevel. I got that information directly from so that I could properly sharpen it without having to change the factory bevel. And so they did give me that information, which was very nice. It does not, again, so the things I would like to change. One, this one is one of the few that I would like a choil, but it would ruin not only aesthetics, but some of the other person knife. And with all of the contouring and the flat right there on the pivot, this is actually one of the ones that doesn't necessarily need it. For my hand, this thing fits just perfect. If you can see that, it fits just perfect. So it's easy enough to just roll into a pinch grip. My hand still fits perfect. My thumb goes right on the and now I've got all the pinch grip control I need in this knife. That's actually not. This is one of the few knives I have that I don't have that complaint about. Here's what I do. The pocket clip. It is secondary. Now, they did a little bit where they really prioritized the lanyard here without giving you one, where they gave you a cutaway. It's chamfered. They really did give a lot of effort and thought to that lanyard hole there. It's chamfered. It's got a wider bit so that you know what I mean, like it's almost like a button lock right there. And then they put the pocket clip down below it, so it's a beautiful single screw pocket clip that is now moved an entire direction forward where it doesn't need to be. And the other one, even though it fits my hands perfectly, would be to round off this beak. I would love to see a Deacon 2 where they round off this beak, take out the lanyard hole, move the pocket clip back, and at the very, very back here, put like a hidden lanyard pin so that it is clean lines without the hole. This would be moved back when you don't have to worry about the same bullshit, this same contouring. This is so freaking fantastic. I have entertained an offer for this knife, and I believe I'm going to allow this to leave my collection after being one of the earliest knives I bought, and I hate to do it because it's hard to get a new one. But this is a beauty of a knife. It has fantastic action. I really do hope this is a quick gripe overall, especially with Chinese companies and a lot of companies. Nobody seems to develop and iterate models anymore. And it's one of my biggest chief complaints with the Chinese manufacturers specifically, that like I get the Wee Deacon, but we don't get a Wee Deacon Model 2 or V2, where you've changed it. You go and do a different model and do a new model that's different and incorporate some of the things, but like taking the Deacon and re-releasing it with a slightly more rounded bottom here. And if you want to see what I mean, it's something more like this, but not quite as steep on the back, not quite as pointy on the back. We have a slightly rounded beak. Hide the pin. You got 20 CV on here. You give different kinds of carbon fiber so you can maintain the Deacon. I know it wasn't the highest selling knife in the world, but you all just went to whole new models instead of trying to really give a nice iterative design philosophy to a very good knife that could have used a little bit of tweak. I don't know if it just doesn't happen, if it's not part of the structure, but it's really too bad that so many good designs that could use some iterative development process don't get it. The Wee Deacon being one of those knives. This knife could use some iterative and have a Deacon V2, a Deacon V3, a Deacon V4, where you have several different versions that take consumer response into account and maintain essentially the same model style cue, same model stuff, and iterate over, so you have some stability in your model line instead of just trying to make it for a few years and then jack up a secondary price. I've seen that happen in comic books. It's a bad idea. But that's what I would change. Mostly the back end right here on the Wee Deacon. If I could have a Deacon 2, it would be that. This back end would be tidied up. The beak would be less pointy, so it would still be retentive, but not to the point of where if your hands are a little bit too big, it's a little too pointy and uncomfortable. Round it off more like you have the flipper tab there, and maintain this absolutely. Oh, God, that's such a sublime knife. This is one of those knives that has such beautiful action. I sit here and play with it. Okay, enough about that one. Get away from that before I sit and play with more. Another one that is a sleeper that you can still find out there, the Anthropos. This will not be iterated over because the man who designed it is no longer with us, and that is too bad because he made such unique and individual and extremely functional knife designs. It's really hard to explain just how much when I use this knife for almost anything, you find out how well designed it was. no jimping for traction, but it's not really about hard use. You can use it for hard tasks, but it's not about hard use. It has a weird choil that works so fantastically well in the pinch grip. It's hard to believe. If you come up here and you're doing something like food prep or scoring, it's got it. You can get it in D2. You can get it in this 9CR18 and 440C mix, Damascus pattern welded, whatever they call it stuff. This is my I have the pocket clip off and all that sort of thing, so I can use it without pocket clip. It does come with, when you get it, it does come with a deep carry pocket clip. I forgot to find that and put it on here before I did this video. But it's not really, you can't really do anything with the whole, and the deployment. It's just that little nub, and it works actually so freaking well without being intrusive or destroying anything in your pocket. It's really hard to say how nice that is. And then when you realize just how elegantly that folds up into its own silhouette. Elegant design, very underrated. It doesn't seem to sell out. So if you can get it now in a D2 version, something like that full flat grind, that long distal taper, the little bit of swedge that rides over so that you can get some relief, believe it or not, instead of having just the edge, having that extra swedge, actually makes it easier to move through stuff as opposed to just having a flat edge there. It's a whole different thing about it. Just a beautiful, pointy, slicey, full flat grind, extremely well designed, very compact, elegant, very underrated, and not enough people give this credit, or at least the buyers don't, if you ask me. All right, on to some of the last here as I get through it. This is the Riffle. Underrated knife, not because this, like everyone online will tell you how good it is. It just doesn't seem to get out there. Like, this is such a good knife. The drop point and all that stuff. Again, here's the one thing. I would love a contoured version, anything update, but this is another one of those knives that I wish had a choil. My God, this is really cool, and I appreciate it, but even just a little bit bigger, a freaking choil would have gone a long way. One of the biggest complaints I have with this knife is, otherwise, 14C28N, micarta handles, great slicey profile, very, very useful tip when doing penetrating tasks. You get this nice long distal taper along with, it's not a full flat grind, it is this sort of off, I guess they call it the slicer grind. Yeah, you have it off at an angle, so it just naturally makes a steeper angle here, so you get more robust geometry behind the edge, and a slimmer angle out here where it's the greatest distance, so you get the sliciest, and then you start coming back to get a little bit more support behind the tip on it. So very nice little bit, and it is great for pretty much any, you can with the drop tail on that, you can get kind of a pinch grip. It's not very nice. It's not comfy. Some other people may find it. Again, a choil would go a long freaking way. It does work really good in the I'm going to score it grip, and of course the reverse grip with that drop tail right there really, really lends itself to having thumb control in a reverse grip, as well as being able to drive home. And the 14C28N is steel that's tough enough to take that kind of abuse. If the need should absolutely arise, otherwise it will provide lots of great long-term use. It's not necessarily underrated. It's just one of those knives that this is just such a great value, and it's been around for a little while now that it's worth mentioning again. All right, on to the next one. You could do several of these Ferrum Forges in here, but the Ferrum Forge Stinger, oh my goodness. In fact, the Ferrum Forge Stinger, if you ask me, is if you can't afford the $140 to $150 for the wee kite fin, then you might be able to afford the $100 for the Ferrum Forge Stinger. If $150 is too much, you can probably go about 30 to 33% down and get a Fair and Forge Stinger. It is Nitro V. It's not the same steel. It's not contoured and all that fancy stuff, but a lot of the same ergonomics. And pretty much anything I said about how to use the knife when it comes to the kite fin applies to the Fair and Forge Stinger. This is just a great little knife. You can get, it's just enough room for most hands to have a little pinky on the flat spot and get some spec, but that giant finger choil right there is definitely meant to be used. You can get a lot of great grip on this knife using that. It has the right tip. Full, not quite a full flat grind, but if you look, you can see that it's basically up to the swedge, and then as the swedge comes, so does the grind, and it goes out. And you can even see that it starts tapering right after the fuller there. Thin slice is a G10 on a nice thin liner. G10 backspacer. Very, very discreet and nondescript. Single screw pocket clip. Recessed, not reversible. Beautiful captive Fair and Forge pivot. Thin slice. It was made by for Fair and Forge, and it has a wonderfully thin and slicey edge. Great little knife, cheaper than the kite fin. Many of the same or similar qualities when you're looking for a knife at a lower price, lower quality materials, but a lot of the same actual like practical performance, even if things like edge retention and all that other stuff is down. If you can't afford $150 for a knife, but you can afford $100, this is a great option. And it is hardly ever mentioned, but I think it's one of those things that the people who know just want to keep it a secret so the price doesn't get jacked up. Anyway, Fair and Forge Stinger, which brings me to the last one. And this one's going to almost be a comparison because this is the Fair and Forge Drop Gent Select. You can still find some of these at Blade HQ, I believe, in the S35VN. Great little knife. Thin but thick. Thin in that direction. It's a little bit thick in this direction. Titanium liner lock. This is the Gent Select, which has the carbon fiber with the silver hardware. It also had the cool Bortia wood with the black hardware. For anyone who wants to know what that looks like, it looks like that. So you could also get this with this hardware and wood. Was a beautiful combination. So even though this is another one of those knives that I think everyone agrees the Conspirator is a fantastic knife. So this isn't quite an oldie yet. Just a goodie all around that if you look online, you'll find it. The aesthetics were essentially carbon fiber like this or this like this. So the aesthetics were very similar. Hopefully that gives you a little bit of visual clue. Then there is just the Gent, right? So S35VN, great flat grind that goes almost all the way up there. Extremely thin behind the edge and slicey, but it's tough steel. Very tough steel. And then there was this handle that was kind of lobed, and it was relatively slim this way, but thick this way, so it still fills your hand. It's not quite. It barely fits my fingers, and I have, relatively medium large width hand. I basically need a large in gloves, and it's just a little bit too big, but my hands are too big for the medium. So I'm right around a large in gloves, and I can barely fit my fingers in there. But again, this large choil is meant to be used in the pinch grip, in the choil choke, everything. It's useful. The drop point is beautiful. I think, along with the scales, so you got the two little things. If you had other scales, you could swap them out fairly easy. If I had the Bortia wood one, I could swap everything out fairly easy. There's a nice little bit of a thin, nondescript pocket clip that is not the most sturdiest thing in the world, but this is not intended to be heavy use, even though I have personally witnessed someone who had a daily user that had chips out of the edge, and they used their blade quite regularly. in the course of their job, and it held up quite well. But I believe this is no longer being made, and I think one of the spiritual successors to this knife is the Civivi Elementum. It is right in the same alley, and a lot of the problems that this knife has are addressed in the Elementum. Elementum's cheaper, still has a choil, has a more lobed handle that's thinner in this direction and thicker in this direction. A lot of the complaints about this one. Still usable, still has that drop point shape. This one's hollow grind, which some people did. It's still thin behind the edge. This was a beautiful blade shape. You know, it's still a flipper, still very there, and about half the price of the Gent Select. So this one's a great knife if you can still pick them up. If you want to consider this a higher optioned version of the Civivi Elementum that's not their frame lock, you can find some really good versions of this, I believe, still on Blade HQ. Once they run out, they're gone. They're not making it anymore. But if you do want something like that, the spiritual successor to the Gent Select is indeed the Civivi Elementum. That's going to be tonight's Dose of Drew Friday night. Some oldies but goodies review. This one was almost an hour, but there was a lot of knives to get through. I hope you guys enjoyed that. Let me know in the comments if you want to see more of this. I can do more knives that I have not reviewed that are older, things that you may or may not have seen, like this steel will Avior that you saw for a moment there. Can bring one of those back. But let me know in the comments if you like that. In the meantime, this has been Friday Night Knives, a dose of Drew. I am said Drew. And you guys, I hope you have a great night. This has been a fantastic time. Go ahead, watch it twice. Comment as much as you like. Be mindful of side effects. Remember to subscribe. This has been your Dose of Drew. I am said Drew. You guys have a great night.